on fundamentals. They're going to work on some things to potentially hold on to the puck more in the zone, to break things up defensively, whatever they need to do to get the puck back and gain some control, which some of that comes because they're such a good team on the rush that they don't have the puck for nearly as long. They're making those quick plays, and they're doing these give and goes in the zone, and they're not working the boards nearly as much. And while I see the first line, I see the reasoning why they aren't necessarily doing that. They don't need to. They work off speed, and it's really worked for them. I mean, we're not talking about a Taylor Hall and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins just trying to run and gun. I don't think that's what that first line does, because they are reasonably responsible defensively. I do actually appreciate that Phil Kessel will now back check. It's, I'm not saying every single time there's a play going the other way that Phil Kessel is just hauling it to get back, but Phil Kessel does play a reasonably responsible defensive game, and it's really made him into a much better player. I mean, no one is going to see Phil Kessel become the next Selke trophy winner. He's not the next Yuri Lettinen, but that's okay. Nobody wants that from Phil Kessel. We don't want just 20 goals. We want 40, 50, 55 goals out of Phil Kessel if it was possible. And we want him to lead the team in scoring. With that, you're going to get a guy who's more offensively minded and isn't thinking as much about defense. They're going to take some chances. They're going to be ready up ice. They want to move the puck forward. And so it's okay that Phil Kessel and that line kind of play the rush game as opposed to dumping it in, holding the puck in and along the boards, and working it back to the points, developing a little bit of an offensive zone presence. In my mind, it's okay that they don't have nearly the offensive zone time, because the time that they spend in the offensive zone is generally like odd man rushes, it seems like, or when it is even man rushes, they're still moving the puck effectively and getting shots on goal. But when you have Nazem Kadri and Raymond and Clarkson, that line is going to have to figure out a way to hold it in the zone, as well as McClement and Kuhlman. And Kuhlman's a guy that it's nice that he's back. He was back on Saturday, and it's nice that he'll play with McClement and Brody, and that line is going to be a line that's relied upon to hold the puck in the zone and create some time away from Reimer and away from Jonathan Bernier, where the Leafs can get some, even if they don't get shots on goal, keeping the puck out of their own zone has to be somewhat of a priority for this team. We cannot give up 45 shots a game. It just can't happen. You're not going to win consistently in this league giving up that many shots. And I'm not saying that the Leafs have to outshoot their opponents to win. No. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, they do need to limit the chances that the opposition gets against the Leafs goaltending. I mean, you can only stop so many shots, and you can only get so fortunate that things don't go in. I have to admit that there were some plays against the Oilers where I just said, how did that not go in? Same thing against Calgary. Calgary was right there knocking on the doorstep. They were very close to tying that game, and the Leafs gave them too many chances. Just straight up. That was the problem. And so I know they are working on balancing that out. How are they going to do that? I think that some of it comes from just a lack of experience on the blue line. And I think that some of what Mark Fraser brings back, and just not necessarily an offensive mindset, but a mindset that says, I don't want the other team to get shots on goal. I'm going to block shots. You wouldn't believe what it does for a team to have a guy who lays it out all on the line and who blocks shots, who lives to block shots. Mark Fraser is a guy that other players look at and will follow his lead. I think that with the way that the Leafs played out west, the Leafs also do look a little bit different at home. They don't get quite as dominated at home as they do on the road in shot-wise. So let's talk just for a minute about the Leafs trying John Van Riemsdyk at center. Now, like I said, this is something that they were going to do last season, but really didn't have the time to implement it because of the lockout and a really quick turnaround coming out of the newly signed CBA, and they just didn't have the time to try JVR at center. And so it fell through the cracks. They said, forget it, let's just go with what we have. And it ended up being fine. Now he's going to try playing center. What does it do for the Leafs? And potentially, does this change things? Imagine this. Imagine that JVR. What if JVR comes in and is good at center, is as good as Kadri? What do you do then? Because Bozak, like he has that spot on that top line, but if JVR can play that top line, a 6'3", 210-pound centerman, my good, you're going to take that over Tyler Bozak every time. Now Tyler Bozak will come out and take faceoffs, and so can Jay McClement, so can Dave Bolland and Nazem Kadri. You don't want him taking any faceoffs that actually matter. Give him all the neutral zone ones. But can JVR come in and battle against other big centermen? Because that's something that's clearly been lacking for the Leafs. And how much better does that trade Luke Schenn for JVR look? If JVR can not only transition to center, but can play well there. He can take his game. Now, he doesn't play, he's not a grinder. He's not necessarily going to use his weight to throw guys around and to body check, but he will use his weight to set up in front of the net. He will use his weight to use to his advantage to score, which honestly, I'm fine with that. I don't need a guy who's huge going and using his body just to hit guys and intimidate. We have players that use their body to do that. JVR is a special kind of player. He's lightning fast for how big he is. And so if he can use his size at center, now on the wing, it isn't as big of an issue. He's also bigger than most guys on the wing, but you move to center, they're going to consistently go up against guys who know how to use their body well. Most centermen in the league, especially your top centermen, they know how to use their body well. Look at Sidney Crosby. He's not that big of a guy, but he knows how to box people out, get in the right position, and use his body to his advantage. A guy like David Krejci in Boston, we're going to see it on Saturday when the Leafs take them on. He's somebody who knows how to put himself in the right position and use his body and use his lower body strength to his advantage. The Leafs play the Devils. The Devils aren't all that good of an example because, oh boy, the Devils are really struggling. Let's transition. Let's talk a little bit of Devils. The Devils are 3-7-4. That will obviously change before the Leafs play them Friday, because on Thursday they actually take on the Philadelphia Flyers. Which, speaking of the Flyers, everybody talks about how bad the Flyers are, and it's no doubt. Actually, Tuesday night they lost to the Carolina Hurricanes in overtime, and so a really bad team beats a horrible team on Tuesday night. But the Devils have been just as bad. Their records are almost identical, but the Devils have less of an excuse because they're supposed to have this great goaltending. They have arguably the greatest goaltender of this era in Martin Brodeur, and then Corey Schneider, who's supposed to come in and be the heir apparent, who hasn't been very good at all and has really struggled early on. They have not played well, and I know they've lost some enormous talent. In fact, David Clarkson, this will be his first game against his former team, the New Jersey Devils, and well, he isn't exactly he's not known for scoring 30 goals per season. David Clarkson provided a lot of leadership, a lot of stability, and he was a guy that Lou Lamoriello really liked. He was a good guy to have in their system, and he left along with Ilya Kovalchuk, and then the year before, Zach Parise. The Devils have just got hammered, losing their top talent, and now they're kind of left. They were left basically to sign guys that nobody else wanted, and now they're left with these guys. So, the top 5 forwards in their payroll. You have Travis Zajac and Patrick Elias, who Elias, he's an older guy, and obviously his best years are behind him. Oh my goodness, I think about 2001, 2002. No, I guess it was 2000 and 2001 are the 2 years that the Leafs played the Devils in the playoffs, I believe. And oh my gosh, I just remember hating the Devils so much. After both of the times that we went in and beat the Ottawa Senators, and then we have to come out and play the Devils, I couldn't hate Martin Brodeur more from those years. I just remember Jason Arnott and all these guys. I don't know if you can remember this. If you're old enough to remember the Leafs playing the Devils in the playoffs in the early 2000s, maybe you'll remember all the cuts that the Devils seem to always get. You had Jason Arnott and Scott Niedermayer, and these guys just, I got a high stick. Oh, I'm cut. It's a 4-minute, and then they'd score on the 4-minute. It seemed like every time there was any penalty against the Devils or against the Leafs, the Devils were bleeding, so the Leafs got an extra 2. My dad and I swore that they had razor blades in their gloves and they were just scratching their face up so that they'd get more minutes. Anyways, sorry to take you back 13 years, but the Devils and the Leafs, they have that interesting past, and that's kind of where really my only Elias connection comes from is all 13 years ago. But so they're top 5 guys: Travis Zajac, Patrick Elias, and then Ryan Clough, Adam Henrique, and Michael Ryder. Collectively, those 5 guys have produced 22 points this year. 22 points. That's the top 5 guys with 22 points. Yager leads the team in points with 10 points, and he's 42 years old. And there's nothing wrong with an older guy leading your team in scoring, but there's some other guys that haven't been able to step up. And I know that there's been some injuries. Zajac hurt his ankle, and Elias was sick for a little while, and Clough had the concussion and head deal, but none of them were lighting it up when they were healthy. None of them were doing anything. And so the Devils, who they've, like I said, they've started the season 3-7-4. They're 1-6-2 on the road. And here they come into Toronto. Now, this game is perfectly set up for the Leafs to blow it. They're coming off a long break, and the Devils come in, and they have some sort of spark, and they happen to beat the Leafs, and their horrible road record means nothing. Each individual game, obviously, statistics help to paint the overall picture, but each individual game, the statistics don't always matter very much. But I think it's fair to say that the Leafs should be able to go in on Friday and handle the Devils. Despite these injuries, they should be able to outscore the Devils, and maybe, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I'm going to say this. I can't believe I'm going to say this to you, but maybe they'll outshoot them. I know, it's funny. I know. I get it. It's a pretty crazy idea that the Leafs could outshoot a team, but what if it happened? What if it happens on Saturday? I think that the way the Devils are playing, that there's just no reason to expect that the Devils could come into Toronto and beat us, especially the way that our goaltending is rolling. The Devils haven't exactly been lighting the lamp. The Devils play the Flyers Thursday night. That's another reason why this just is all set up for a recipe of disaster. The Devils are going to be coming from playing Philadelphia. They're going to go into Toronto, and it's the end of their back-to-back. The Leafs have had 6 days off. There is just no reason to think that the Leafs will lose this game. And in the past, that's meant that they're going to lose the game. But I really like the way that, you contrast this with Edmonton. They should have gone into Edmonton. They should have handedly beat them. They were the better team, and they did it. They won 4-0. And so my expectations have shifted for this team, whereas in the past I might have been very weary to say, we are definitely going to win this game. I think that you have to be able to say that in order to feel confident, if you can confidently say, or at some point, you want to be able to say, and the Leafs could win the Cup this year, well, then you better confidently be able to say, the Leafs can beat the Devils. The Leafs can beat one of the basement teams in the NHL and do it handedly, and they should be able to do that night in and night out and not give up points to crappy teams. Sorry. If you're a New Jersey Devils fan, I sincerely apologize. I wish that we could have. I would take last place if we had been in the finals 2 years ago. I'll just put that out there now. Obviously, the Devils have had an incredible run since 1996 or 1995. They won the Cup. In 2000, they won the Cup, and then again in 2003. The Devils have had a great run, and it looks like it's coming to an end for now. They're clearly going to drop in the standings, and they're going to get some help. Imagine Connor McDavid in New Jersey. Ugh, makes me sick. Please don't let that happen. Or in Buffalo. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine if Connor McDavid, if you don't know who Connor McDavid is, he's in 2 years, he'll be the first overall pick in the draft. Like, people are saying he's the next Crosby, and if you've had the opportunity to see him play, you probably yep, he's the next Crosby. He's very impressive. Started playing the OHL when he's 15. He got the underage eligibility deal. He's pretty incredible. The teams that I'm looking at right now that are really bad, like the Sabres, the Panthers, Devils, the Flyers, I don't want him to go to any of those teams. Please, just, I don't know. I don't know who I'd want him to go to, but I know, like, hate the Flyers, hate the Sabres, hate the Devils, and nobody wants good players to go to the Panthers. I'm sorry. Does anybody really want an NHL star player to go to the Florida Panthers? Anybody? No. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Oh, we'll see. That's in 2 years. Anyways, I know I said that we only talk Leafs, and hey,